or he would learn about the enemy band of Indians was sneaking through the forest to attack the place where Atene was sleeping. And Matt would run through the woods and give alarm just in time. In the morning, he laughed at himself for his childish daydreaming. There was little chance that he would ever be the hero, and a little chance, too, that Atene would ever need his help. Matt knew that the Indian boy came day after day only because his grandfather had sent him. For some reason, the old man had taken pity on this helpless white boy, and at the same time, he had shrewdly grasped at the chance for his grandson to learn to read. If he suspected that Atene had become the teacher instead, he would probably put a stop to the visits altogether. Matt knew he ought to feel grateful for Atene's teaching. Every day, Atene taught him something new. That a plant like an onion that he could drop into his cooking pot to make the stew more tasty. Or a weed with a small orange flower and a milky juice in its stem that took away the sting of insect bites or poison ivy. A plant with brownish flowers and roots bearing a string of nut-like bulbs that thickened his stew and made it more nourishing. He had pointed out plants that Matt had must never eat, no matter how hungry he might be. He had even shown Matt how to improvise a rain cape in a sudden rain by quickly punching a hole through the center of a wide strip of birch bark and making a cone of bark for his head. The only thing that Matt could teach him, Atene was set against learning. For Atene, the white man's signs on paper were piswat, good for nothing. Nevertheless, Matt noticed that in spite of himself, Atene had learned something from the white boy. He was speaking the English tongue with greater ease. Perhaps he was not aware himself how differently he spoke. He picked up new words readily. Sometimes he used them with odd humor that Matt was beginning to recognize. Matt knew that Atene was mocking when some of his own favorite expressions came out solemnly from the Indian's mouth. "I reckon so," Atene would say. "Rain comes soon, by golly." Sometimes he even took a fancy to a word out of Robinson Crusoe. He especially liked the sound of the word verily. In return, Matt liked to try out Indian words. They were not hard to understand, but impossible to get his tongue around. He didn't think he could ever quite get them right, but he could see that though it amused Atene when he tried, it also pleased him. "Chakwa!" This morning, Matt might say, "I chased kagwa out of corn patch." He wouldn't add that he had wasted an arrow and watched the porcupine waddle off unharmed. Perhaps, after all, those lessons hadn't been entirely wasted. Chapter 14. Robinson Crusoe had come to an end. Matt skipped more than half of it, choosing only the pages where there was plenty of action. Now he was sorry that it had not lasted longer. Atene also seemed disappointed. "Too bad," he commented, copying another one of Matt's frequent remarks. "I tell story to brothers. Every night I tell more story. They like." Delighted, Matt tried to picture the Indians sitting around a campfire at night, listening to a teen tell the story of Robinson Crusoe. It would give a good deal to hear a teen's version of it. Now suddenly, he had an inspiration. "Oh, if they want more stories, I have lots of them," he exclaimed. He took his father's Bible from the shelf. Why hadn't he thought of this before? There was Samson and David and Goliath, Joseph in the coat of many colors. "Oh, they're even better than Robinson Crusoe," he promised. It really was true. The ancient Bible stories were filled with adventure, and they were told straight in simple language that didn't need skipping. He began with a story of Noah, how God had warned Noah that a great flood was coming, and how Noah built the ark and took inside his family and 2 of every kind of animal, how they all lived in the ark safely while it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, how Noah had sent a dove out 3 times, and when it came back the 3rd time with a twig of olive in its beak, Noah knew that the flood was over. Here Matt looked up and he saw a grin on a teen's face. "Beaver people tell story like that," he said. "Very old story. You want me tell?" Matt waited curiously. "Very long time," a teen began, scowling as he tried to translate from his own tongue. "Before animal was great rain. Water come over all of land. One Indian go to very high hill, climb very high tree. Rain many days. Water come to feet of Indian, but no more. Gluscabee bring 3 ducks to Indian. One day he let 1 duck go. It fly away and not come back. Other day he let other duck go. It not come back. Then last duck come back with mud in mouth. Indian no water go down. When water all gone, he come down from tree. He make grass, make bird and animal, make man and beaver. Man and beaver make all other Indians." "Golly," said Matt. "It's almost like the Bible story. Where did the Indians get it?" A teen shrugged. "Very old story. Indians take time to tell. I not know the white man's words." "You told it fine. Who was this whatever you call him?" "Gluscabee. Mighty hunter, come from north, very strong. He make wind blow, make thunder. He make all animal, make Indian." Matt was puzzled. He had heard that the Indians worshipped the Great Spirit. This Gluscabee did not sound like a great spirit. He sounded more like a hero in the old folk tales that his mother had told him when he was a child. He decided it would be impolite to ask more. He wondered if the Indians had more stories like that. And how could it be that here in the forest they had learned about the flood? Chapter 15. On the day of their greatest adventure, a teen had come without his dog. So there was no warning. Matt was in fine spirits that day because he had managed by a magnificent stroke of luck to hit a rabbit with his bow and arrow. It was the first time that this had happened, and it was more the rabbit's doing than his own. The silly creature just sat there and let him take careful aim. All the same, he was pleased with himself and even more pleased that a teen was there to see it. When the boys decided to visit the beaver dam again, Matt was unwilling to leave the rabbit behind in case some thieving animal should discover it. He was walking behind a teen, swinging the rabbit carelessly by the ears as a teen had always done, when the Indian suddenly halted, and he opened his mouth to speak when a teen silenced him with a jerk of his hand. And then he heard a sound in the underbrush ahead. Not a rustle like a grouse or a snake, not a trapped animal. This was a stirring of something more slowly and heavily. He felt a cold prickle in his stomach. He stood beside a teen, his own muscles tight, scarcely breathing. A low bush bent sideways. Through the leaves, a brown head thrust itself, bigger than that of a dog and shaggier. It was a small bear cub. Matt could see the little eyes peering at him curiously, the brown nose wrinkling at the strange smell of a human boy. The little animal looked so comical that Matt almost laughed out loud. Psst, a teen warned under his breath, and there was a crashing of bush and a low, snarling growl. An immense paw reached through the thicket and tumbled over the cub and out of sight. And in its place loomed a large brown shape. Bursting through the leaves was a head 3 times as big as the cub's. No curiosity in these small eyes, only an angry, reddish gleam. Somehow, Matt had the sense not to run. He stood frozen on the path. A bear could overtake a running man in a few bounds, and this one only 2 bounds away. The bear's head moved slowly from side to side. Its heavy body brushed aside the branches as though they were cobwebs. It swayed, shifting its weight from one foot to the other, and slowly it rose on its hind legs, and Matt could see its wicked, curving claws. Matt would never know why he acted as he did. He could not remember thinking at all, only staring with numb horror at the creature about to charge. Somehow, he did move. He swung the dead rabbit by its ears, and he hurled it straight at the bear's head. The tiny body struck the bear squarely in the nose, and with a jerk of her head, the bear shook it off as if it were a buzzing mosquito. The rabbit flopped helplessly, useless to the ground. The bear did not even bother to look down at it. She had been distracted for only an instant, but in that instant, something flashed through the air. There was a sharp twang and the thud of a blow, and just between the eyes of the bear, the shaft of a teen's arrow quivered as the waving forepaws began to lower. A second arrow struck just beneath the bear's shoulders. The great head shuddered and sank toward the ground. And with a wild yell, Ateen sprang forward and thrust his knife deep just behind his first arrow. Still scarcely aware that he had even moved at all, Matt leaped after him. Jerking his own knife from his belt, he sank it into the brown fur. His blow had been misplaced, but it was needed. The bear's sides were heaving. The boys stood watching, and in a few moments, it lay still. Matt stared down at the creature in horror. The fearsome yellow teeth were still bared in a snarl. Saliva and blood dribbled down from the open jaws. The little eyes that had glittered so savagely were filmed over. The long, sharp claws hung powerless, clotted with pawed-up earth. Now there was nothing to fear. Matt felt his knees shaking. He hoped that Ateen would not notice, and he managed a wide grin to hide his trembling. But Ateen did not grin back. He stood over the bear, and he began to speak, slowly and solemnly, in his own tongue. He spoke for some time. "What were you saying?" Matt demanded when the speaking was over. "I tell Bear, I do not want to kill," Ateen answered. "Indian not kill she-bear with cub. I tell Bear we did not come here to hunt." "But it might have killed us both." "Maybe. I ask Bear to forgive that I must kill." "Well, I'm mighty thankful that you did," Matt said stoutly. He was about to say that he had never been so scared in his whole life, but he thought better of it. Ateen looked at him, and his solemnness suddenly dissolved into a grin. "You move quick," he said. "Like Indian." Matt felt his cheeks turn red. "You killed him," he said honestly. Yet he knew he had had a part. He had given Ateen just that instant in which to notch his arrow. Ateen nudged the bear with his toe. "Small," he said. "Just some fat. Good for eat." "Small?" That monstrous creature, it certainly was too big for two boys to carry. It appeared that Ateen had no intention of trying. "Belong to squaw now," he said. "I go tell." "You mean a squaw is going to carry that heavy thing?" "Cut up meat, then carry." "Squaw work," Ateen answered. It was plain that he had done the man's work and was finished with it. The cub, Matt remembered now. It was nowhere in sight. Ateen shook his head. "Let cub go," he said. "When Sigwam come again, him plenty big to eat." "Take rabbit," Ateen reminded him. Matt looked with distaste at the rabbit, almost covered by the bear's heavy paw, the fur matted and bloody. He would rather not have touched it, but obediently he pulled it out. I mean, it was his dinner after all, and he knew that in a teen's world, everything that was killed must be used. The Indians did not kill for sport. When a teen had disappeared into the forest, Matt still stood looking down at the first bear that he had ever seen. He felt resentful. A teen had killed the bear, of course. It was his by right, but Matt would like to have just a small share of the meat, or even one of those big claws to show his father. But then he remembered the Indian boy's tribute. He had moved fast, like an Indian. Matt would have to be share enough. End of chapter 15. And say goodbye, Lucky. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye.